Hello and welcome to Live at 5. Okay, first and foremost, you know what we're going to be talking about. It is the staggering, unprecedented situation that unfolded in the match between Tottenham Hotspur and Liverpool on Saturday. There is, of course, predictable whataboutery fueled by tribalism, evident across media and social media, but we're intending to cut through the bullshit and discuss a situation that should be angering everyone with a stake in football. We are live, so you can get involved in the comments. I'm Gareth Roberts, this is Paul Cope, and we're from the Late Challenge podcast, so do check us out. But I'll start with this. Tell me a time when a goal hasn't been given because the referee didn't realise it was a goal, despite his colleagues telling him it's a goal. There isn't one. I don't think there is one. I don't know anything like it. This is unprecedented. This hasn't happened before. It's a clanger of unbelievable levels. And that's why there's the anger that there is. That's why there's a statement from Liverpool. And what I'm not sure about is why so many people working for mainstream media outlets are seemingly baffled by the outrage. This isn't a bog standard marginal decision. Oh, hello. This isn't a bog standard marginal decision. It's a mind-blowing mistake. Let's say it again. Luis Diaz scores a legitimate goal for 10-man Liverpool. We'll talk about that red card for Curtis Jones later. And it's a goal that isn't even close to being offside. Yet it's flagged offside by the assistant referee. Huge screens in the stadium say checking for possible offside. Diaz stops celebrating. 3,000 Liverpool fans stop celebrating. 59,000 Tottenham fans jeer and mock that we've celebrated. And 35 seconds later, the goal's ruled out by Simon Hooper. Spurs take a free kick for the offside, and on we go. And 2 minutes later, Tottenham take the lead. Are we expected to just swallow that? We've got two perspectives to offer here before we get into all the details of this. Because I was in the away end at Tottenham Hotspur. Copey was at home watching it on TV. So what's your view? I know what my view is. I was there, I'm me. But what was your view on the whole thing? Watching that madness unfold with the benefit of commentary, replays, analysis, and the rest.
Well, I think I don't know whether you've seen any of this, and I'm going to talk about the Sky
Only
Sports
some of it,
coverage, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, if people are likely to be watching or listening to this from all around the world, so they've seen their own coverage from their own broadcasters. But the striking thing about the Sky coverage was no big deal was made of it.
Really?
I saw people on Twitter saying, like one of my mates was tweeting saying, "Why aren't Sky banging on about this offside?" Like, they showed the replay and then we're just like, yeah, and then carried on with the game. And it was like, sorry, hang on. Even to the naked eye, that looks like it's onside. Why are we just skipping past this? Why has that happened so quickly? Why? And I think Gary Neville was the co-commentator, and I think he might have mentioned, that was quite quick. Do you know, the check
35 seconds
to get on with the game.
Yeah.
But I think there's just an assumption, and I've noticed this with Sky presenters more than the pundits who are on Sky. There's this almost a drive, and I don't know where this comes from, but it's like a drive to point out that we've got to rely on the technology. We've got to rely on the process. We've got to, you've got to trust it works. And so it was like, so it must have been done because it was like we haven't seen the lines. That was the big thing. Why haven't we seen the lines on this? And the narrative then turns into, they'll have done the lines. Don't worry about it. We just haven't seen them, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't until after the game, really, I think, from my memory, that it turned into, it might have been at half time, it was mentioned a bit more. And then after the game, that's when it turned into the, shit.
The statement gets issued.
The statement came out whilst Neville came down from the gantry and then, which, was pitch side with the rest of them. I think it was Kelly Cates presenting, Andros Townsend and Jamie Redknapp. And as Kelly Cates read out the statement, Gary Neville at that point was like literally going out loud, "Oh no, this is bad. Oh no, this is bad." to the point where Kelly Gates even went to him, all right. Like,
we get it.
Yeah, we get it. Like, shut up. This is... and my general view of it all, I'm going to mention Neville again. He literally brought me out of tweet retirement this morning, replying to a message of it, a tweet of his. I'm shocked by him. I'm shocked by... And I do wonder whether this is because it's Liverpool, and I'm not usually one for doing the whole, it's because it's Liverpool, but I feel as though because Liverpool and Liverpool supporters are big, Liverpool numbers are big in number on social media, and can, you know, a reasonable percentage of our social media following can be knobheads. I get that, as with lots of fan bases and lots of social media people or commentators. So I get that, and I understand why people are like, oh, Liverpool again and blah, blah, blah. But what I don't get is this sort of push to be like, they should just shut up about it. Like the statement that came out, there seems to be a generalised thing of the club shouldn't have made that statement, which I couldn't disagree more with. I was made up, they made that statement. But also, everyone seems to have misread the statement somehow.
Yeah.
The club hasn't said anything other than, we're going to look into what can be done, basically. We're going to explore our options. I don't see how it can be any more generalised than that. They haven't said anything. There's this big thing of like people taking the piss saying we want a replay. The club hasn't said it wants a replay.
Yeah.
I certainly haven't asked for a replay.
I had someone tweeting me saying this, and I was like, I haven't asked for one. Yeah. I've done a lot of tweets about it. I've already given a lot of opinions about it. I've done an interview about it this morning on the radio. I haven't asked for a replay. I don't want a replay.
And I
want the situation to improve so that next time I spend over 100 quid to go to London to watch Liverpool play, I don't have a replay of that situation.
Well, and this is my basic point. Like when it boils down to it, and then we can get into the details, is this. Gary Neville on Sky said, an apology, we should take apologies because people don't apologise often enough. And it's good that they've apologised. And I think you replied to him saying, there isn't an apology in there. They've held their hands up to an error, but they haven't apologised yet. And maybe they will. But
there's the Independent has one line in one report that says Webb's contacted Liverpool and apologised. So that's off the record then, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not
it's not a public apology.
It's not on the telly, it's not on the radio.
Mate, even if it was a fucking down on the hands and knees apologising for this, Neville saying there's been an apology, everyone fucks up, we should just move on, to me is fundamentally bollocks.
Yeah,
because, and look, I'll boil this down to like basic like life. I've got a 3-year-old stepson, and he's got onto the fact, he's developed this thing where he's learned that if you say sorry, everything's all right. So he literally will be being naughty. And as he gets caught and you go to him, you can't do that. He goes, sorry. And I go to him, and I've been saying to him for weeks now, mate, I keep telling you, you can't say sorry and then do the same thing again. Like an apology means nothing. And this is for all of us in life, right? I've apologised enough in my own life for mistakes I've made. And the whole point of a good apology is you make amends for what you've done and you don't do it again. If I was sat here punching you in the face and every time I punched you, I went to you, sorry about that, mate. And then you went, okay. And then I just punched you again in the face and went, sorry about that, mate. You wouldn't just keep accepting my apology. You've got to expect a change of behaviour. And it's ridiculous, I think, for all of football to not be saying, enough is enough now with this. Yeah. This is, as you said in the intro, this isn't just, it's a marginal decision. It could go either way. We'll talk about the Curtis Jones thing. Do you know what I mean? Most VAR and refereeing decisions, I've defended referees in recent weeks and said, look, it's a tough job. You can show most decisions and go 50-50. Half the fans will say this, half the fans will say that. That's just football. This is not that. This incident has got worse at every step. Like when it came out after the game that actually the mistake wasn't that they hadn't drawn the lines. The mistake was that they drew the lines, but the VAR thought it was a goal on the pitch. So when he said check complete, he thought he was approving a goal. And that was the fuck up. And then he didn't, when he noticed it, correct that mistake. And again, we'll get into the details of that. For me, this is fundamental, like procedural shit that you can't just wash away. In the same way, like I was thinking about this on the way in, like doctors, airline pilots, they have checklists. They have checklists that they have to complete before they do anything. Why? Because it takes out or mitigates or reduces the chance of basic human error. Now,
Exactly.
if we can't do that with referees in this country who are professional, by the way, and paid a shitload of money to be referees, then I don't know what we're all doing in a game and in games that are worth millions of pounds. And literally the finest detail is the difference between a league win or not, a Champions League place or not, relegation or not. We can't wash this away. No. Something has to be done.
Absolutely. And you've got, broadcasters paying millions for it. You've got, people betting on it, the betting industry side of it and all this kind of stuff. It's an absolute joke. Their reputation has hit the iceberg. There's a hole in the ship. And Howard Webb needs to suggest that they're going to do something differently from here on in. And as you say, Liverpool have every right, in my opinion, to put out the statement that they did. I mean, from my perspective, as someone who went down there, my anger hasn't worked its way out of me yet. To go to Spurs from Liverpool is a 450-mile trip, thereabouts. And it means if you're going on the coach like we did, you're leaving at 11 o'clock in the morning, you're getting home after midnight. As I said before, you're easily spending over £100. And look, that might not be a lot of money to some people, but, to a lot of football fans, it is. Mm. And, people make sacrifices to support the team that they love. And this team's an exciting team. We go down there, we're all buzzing. It's a big game. It's box office. It's two sides that have started the season well. It's a sold-out match. There's millions of eyes on it. It's on the telly. And, to come away from that ground and sit on that coach coming home knowing that, our lads put absolutely everything into that game. They were seconds away from an unbelievable result with 9 men. That's heartening about, the spirit of Liverpool, if you like. But to come away from that ground, sit on that bus and know that we've been robbed by incompetent refereeing is heartbreaking. And I don't understand how anyone involved in football, no matter who you support, doesn't get that and wouldn't want that avoided for their club. I don't get why I've got people sending me pictures of some goal once upon a time or referencing some other match. It's not about that, this. It's about making the game better for everyone, for the good of football. Fans are stakeholders in this game, whether other people who are stakeholders in the game like it or not. And it doesn't go on sort of, exclusive of us. It goes on because of us. So for me, you've got to be listening to the supporters at this point and not just writing them off as people on Twitter or whatever. You've got supporters groups putting statements out. Spirit of Shankly have never put a statement out about something like this before. They've put a statement out this time. And you can't have us, every day I wake up, put the radio on, and there's an advert on there for a broadcaster every day telling me multiple times, this isn't just a sport, this is everything. Okay, then, it's everything. So it shouldn't be ruined by that then. Yeah. You know what I mean? We can't just go, oh, it's sound, they said sorry. They said sorry a lot of times. There've been major fuck-ups a lot of times. So what is going to change from here on in? And like I say, I don't get why you've got sort of mainstream journalists essentially taking the piss out of Liverpool Football Club for putting a statement out. What does this mean? What does that mean? Let's replay everything. No one said that. No one said that at any point. I've never seen, by the way, a reaction to a decision like this before. I've seen fans kick off a little bit about a decision, but this is proper like end of days. This is like something has to change here. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. As promised anyway, okay, that's only the intro. We are going to get sort of into the nuts and bolts of all this. So let's just sort of work through the game in how it went at Tottenham Hotspur. So, the game kicks off. Liverpool show absolutely no sign whatsoever of being fazed by the occasion or the opposition. We've had a lot of talk this season of bad starts. This was a very good one. So Salah's setting up Diaz. McAllister's having a pop from 20 yards or so. There's a double save from Vicario from Gakpo and Robertson. And on 24 minutes, with 24 minutes gone, it's 7 shots to 1 in favour of the Reds. Mm-hmm. And it's then that we get Curtis Jones's red card. Now, being told just before we come on here that Liverpool plan to appeal Curtis Jones' red card, and one of the bases for it is that you can see on the TV footage that the referee is looking at Simon Hooper, is looking at a still and judging whether it's a red card or not based on a still. And apparently this goes against, you know, some of their own rules. And it's some of their own rules that have created some of this mess, by the way. But we'll come on to that. We're going to focus on Curtis Jones's red card first of all. So a lad I was with in the ground, Neil, said his opinion on it, and an opinion that he was getting from back home off his mates and stuff was, you'd want the player gone if it was the other way around. Mm. And I can see that. I'll take that. But what Liverpool have got beef with here, I've got beef with as well. So the game isn't played in slow motion, and the game isn't a photograph. It's played at real time. It's played at real speed. And to me, that's what you should judge it on. So, okay, the VAR, is useful apparently in some respects. But when he goes to that telly and looks at a still image of the moment where Curtis Jones's studs of contacted the player's ankle or whatever, well, what about the bit where he's took the ball and then slid over the ball? Why is he not watching that bit? And he's given a yellow, isn't he, initially on the pitch by the referee. Then it's overturned, presumably because it's judged to be a clear and obvious error on the bar of endangering an opponent. But, again, how did that look to you when you were at home? Because in real time, to me, when he got the yellow card, I thought, yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
so watching it live on telly, I thought, yeah, yellow card. Then as soon as there was the VAR check, and I'm talking about Gary Neville a lot today, but he played a prominent role in the coverage. So he even said, because it's, as soon as he got sent to the monitor, as soon as we knew there was a VAR check, you're like, I think everyone's sort of getting used to the feel of what a VAR check is like now. That, if it drags on a little bit, you start to worry as the side of the lad who got the yellow. You think, if he was just going to say it's just a yellow, that'd have been done by now. So then he gets sent to the screen, and at that point, Neville, and that was backed up by lots of ex-pros saying the same thing. This is not a challenge that's endangering an opponent. It's a yellow. But on the TV footage, as the ref goes to the monitor, you can see what they've put on the monitor.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I think it might have been mentioned on Sky, but I literally saw it and was like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Psychologically, he's walking up to the monitor and the first image he sees is a photograph of Curtis Jones's studs in the lad's shin. And his leg bending. Now, I've heard other people say, if you slow down every challenge in football and freeze frame it, you're going to see lots of bendy legs. That's what happens. Your bones bend. So at the point you take a photo, there'll be loads of challenges that it looks awful. And the crowd reacted after he'd been sent, and they must have shown the replay in the ground. The Spurs fans went, oh, like that's a bad one. And I don't necessarily have a problem with him being sent off. I do think it's a bit of a 50-50 one. I can see that argument.
Yeah, it's not end if it was of against days. Us. It's not like the offside. I take that on board.
I think that's the point, isn't it? It's like there are decisions
there
where
culmination of decisions in one game and also in one season. Like Liverpool had 4 players sent off already.
But even without we get into that, mate, like this comes back to, again, a protocol and procedure point. And this is the bit that I'm pissed off with Webb and the referees and the PGMOL. Like, any good professional system should have a good process. There should be good procedure that minimise the chances of mistakes being made. If you're operating in something that has a high potential for human error, which this does, and the whole point of the system is to reduce human error, then have a better process.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not allowed to show a freeze frame to the ref as he's coming up, how is that happening?
I know, why is it on there?
How is that happening? Surely that is like 101. And this is the bit that I'm pissed off with about it. It's that managers, players, coaches, owners, to a certain degree, all are seemingly being held to a higher standard of accountability than referees. Mm. That can't be the case.
£100,000 for swearing in the case of Van Dijk. So, what happens to these lads? Okay, they were taken off, they were taken off the next day and the day after. But then what? You know, because you're being paid 6-figure salaries, lads. And, you know, like, if you're incompetent, then you shouldn't be doing it. And, you know, like, is there not an argument there for that? You know, there are just simply not enough top referees in this country. Okay, well, if that's the case, then let's go elsewhere and go and get some. You know, because I don't know why we're slave to PJMOL, which is really difficult to say. And also the fact that they only answer to themselves as well. You know, so their own rule that this is what Liverpool are meant to be pulling them up on in respect of Curtis Jones says the VAR can check the footage in normal speed and or in slow motion. But in general, slow motion replays should only be used for facts, e.g. position of offence player, point of contact for physical offences and handball, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, essentially, and you can see Klopp, can't you, on the footage saying, oh, of course you're going to look at that type of thing. So, again, I'm absolutely fine with Liverpool just saying, you know, enough is enough here. We feel we've been wronged and consistently wronged. You know, and then with the Diaz one, wow, I mean, you know, how can anyone argue against that? But I thought it's interesting just on the Jones stuff. I seen Neville saying, obviously a former Premier League defender himself, I seen him saying that he's done similar where you slip off the top of the ball and then you're into the player. And he said, I'm convinced that he hasn't gone to do Bazuma. You know what I mean? Like that intent isn't there. Alan Shearer and Micah Richards on Match of the Day. Same. And it's you know, I think what's really annoying about it is, as I said when we started this section, Liverpool had rattled up 7 shots. You know what I mean? They were having a go. They were getting the better of Spurs. You fancied them. Do you know what I mean? And to be honest with you, even when Curtis got sent, I still fancied them.
I did, yeah.
Because I just thought, do you know what? We've already done this.
Yeah.
We've done it against Bournemouth. We've done it against Newcastle in spectacular fashion. I still fancy the Reds. And you know, there's a decent chance for a Richarlison. And then comes the next moment that we've got to discuss in detail, the Luis Diaz offside. I mean, what's lost in this, and almost nobody is saying, so I want to say it to start this section, is it's a lovely goal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's an unbelievable goal.
It's a lovely goal. So it's really good by Mo again, who's coming for this weird stick. I think based on that, you know, people think we should have cashed in and should have let him go. He shows incredible nous first off to play that ball through. Diaz just takes it in his stride, lovely. And the finish is brilliant and it's right in the corner. Superb goal. And, you know, like, wearing that away and going, we've just been wronged, you know, only a few minutes ago. And then we've gone and done that. Yeah. You know, what a team we are. What a bunch of players we've got here. The flag straight up. Seeing it in the ground. The flag goes straight up. I'm celebrating wildly, going nuts, looking around at all the happy faces. The lad next to me is tapping me on the shoulder and he's saying, the flag's up. And then, of course, it goes up on the screens that they're checking for offside. And it's at this point we get significant human error. And a story that just doesn't really sort of hit home, does it? I mean, they are apparently going to release the audio of it. Liverpool are going to put another statement out, we believe, as well, around that they're going to request that audio. Apparently that's going to come, that we're going to hear that, that's going to go out there. And it should do, because you can't have Howard Webb going on programmes on the telly and playing some audio but not all the others, do you know what I mean? And in this situation, you know, it's mad, it's only footy, isn't it? But, you know, like, we want to, you can't hear a smoking gun, but you know what I mean? We want to hear the moment, don't we? Yeah. Because at the moment, it just doesn't sit right. It's like, I don't get how this has happened, lads. You're all mic'd up. You're all mic'd up talking to each other.
Well, the next bit you've got in the, you know, in the notes for the show, the agenda, says something that I didn't realise, in fairness. Because I think it's worth bearing in mind in this how fast it all happens. And that's the bit. But it's the what's the word? It's in here somewhere. It's the whole way this is set up that means it comes back to something we discussed about VAR a few weeks ago, about what's the point. Like, let's just boil it down to what's the point, because we have all this clear and obvious errors and blah blah blah, and not re-refereeing games and stuff like that. But isn't the whole point just to get the right decision? Isn't that the point? Like, don't all football fans, if we just boil it down, just as often as we possibly can, just have the right decision? So, like, would Spurs fans really be complaining if just after they'd taken that free kick, the ref blew his whistle again and went, lads, sorry, it's a goal? I've just been told by VAR it's a goal. But the chain of events, I don't know that you want to read this bit out. It's about the timing of everything. And that's where, again, I keep said this before, but every time I hear a bit more of this, it gets worse, not better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm intrigued to hear the audio, and I'm amazed they're going to release it. And I hope it's not edited in any way, because I can't believe that the audio, as we hear it, will not make it worse, not better.
Well, this is the thing as well. You know, there's lots of people talking about like conspiracy theories and corruption and, you know, people going on about tinfoil hats and all the rest of it. But when stuff like this happens, where it's just so unbelievable that you can get it so badly wrong, then I understand where conspiracy theories come from, to be honest with you. But yeah, this is from ESPN today. They say England, who's one of the officials, he's the VAR, somehow now thinks he's checking a goal rather than a disallowed goal, and he cannot.
Just sorry to interrupt me. Just pause there. By the way, right? Think about that.
So he doesn't see the flag
Before we start, this is the VAR. He's being paid in the region of $100,000 a year to do his job, which is more, I would guess, than the vast majority of people who are watching or listening to this. Probably a lot more than most people who are at the game. It's his job to watch this football match like fucking eagle-eyed, and he's missing the fact that it was a goal. That's our starting point. As he's checking this offside, he's missed the fact that the ball went in the net and that the linesman put his flag up. He's missed all of that.
No, he knows he's checking a goal.
No, he knows he's checking a goal, but he's missed the fact that it's been disallowed.
Offside, yeah.
Fundamentally, that's a problem, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Just a bit. And he doesn't.
You're in the middle of celebrating the goal as a lad who's probably had a few bevies. You've done a long trip, as you've said, mid-40s, and some lad next to you goes, the flag's up.
Yeah.
So that's what happens in the ground. Right. That's what happens in the ground. We tap each other on the shoulder and go, the flag's up.
Yeah.
Stop celebrating. The flag's up. The whole ground knows the flag's up. The whole ground knows that's why VAR is being checked. But the fella whose job it is to check doesn't know.
Hasn't got on it. What's he doing?
That is mad.
Is he on his phone?
Before we go any further.
Is he reading the paper?
Exactly. Is he just daydreaming? And this ties into the thing.
It doesn't make sense.
Is he asleep?
That's what I mean. It doesn't make sense because your job is to watch the game.
Exactly.
So and then watch the footage that, helps the game and helps the flow and helps the referee. But so he thinks he's just checking to say, yeah, it was defo onside. It was a goal.
Good goal, yeah.
But doesn't know that the linesman's flag. If it says in ESPN, he can't see the overlay shown on TV and in the stadium is said here, by the way. So that's sort of countering the point that, we see a sign we see on the screens in the ground checking for possible offside.
Yeah.
It's saying here that he doesn't see that, but I still don't buy it because you're all mic'd up. So, like the referee or the linesman is surely should be saying to the VAR, we think that's offside. Is it offside? And
surely as the linesman puts his flag up, he goes offside to his mates, doesn't he? Or is he just silent? When he puts his flag up, isn't he going to the ref?
Yeah. I mean, if you go back to that John Moss footage from God knows when it was, Spurs game, was it? Was that a Spurs game as well? But, whenever it was and whatever game it was, and it's not great, is it? And he's going, I think I'll just give it, type of thing. Yeah. But, they obviously do. You've had Mark Halsey on the radio all day today saying they all talk to each other all the time. And this is the bit where it all just seems a bit... And it says, if he was confirming an overturn, he would lock in the offside lines. But because he thinks the on-field decision is goal, there's no prerequisite to do so when the onside is an obvious one. So he cleared the review quickly with such confidence he didn't get the opinion of the assistant VAR. ESPN says here, perhaps that was the issue. It was such a regulation onside decision that he just thought he'd wrap it up. And then he says, check complete. Now, this does me head in as well. This story's not very old, is it? It only happened, Saturday evening, and I'm already sick of hearing that, because I'm not a rugby man. I don't like rugby. I don't go and watch rugby, but I know enough about it, and I've caught it on the telly enough times to see how they do their refereeing. And we get to hear them, and we get to hear what they're saying. And the clarity in what they say couldn't be more removed from that shit. Yeah. Check complete. Yeah. Just say, it's not goal. Offside, mate. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That's better communication.
Yeah. It's not a goal, that, mate.
It's better communication than check complete, isn't it? And the irony of that is, I read one of the reports around this that said the reason they say check complete is they don't want to say goal or no goal, because they think that could get misheard. Well, fucking hell, lads.
Yeah.
You know, and again, this is where they need to be coming out and telling us, well, what are you going to do differently now? And again, this is why Liverpool put a statement out. So again, where does the ridicule come from? Why are people taking the piss? Why are mainstream journalists acting in the manner that they are, when their job is to report on, write about and comment on football as a whole, not just get on some banter bandwagon and go, why are Liverpool doing this?
Yeah.
Why do you think they're doing
I saw one of them say to them, oh, they should replay this game and the beach ball game as well. And you're like, fuck off, lads. Me and you sitting here, right, having a semi-rant while we're talking about it. I've already identified 2 or 3 things we could do to the refereeing and VAR systems that would improve it, that would cut out some of these issues. So why is that not a thing? Why isn't everybody going, lads? I saw Neville and Carragher interview Webb. I don't know whether the season had started or just before the season started. And Neville was properly grilling him on the thing about, the players got to stay off the pitch now for 30 seconds, I think it is. Whether or not they were actually injured or not. And he was like, that can't be right. And he was pushing him on it. And that was the bit I mentioned on a previous show where they were talking about Joe adding all the time on. And basically one of them asked him, like, what are you trying to achieve? And he was basically like, well, that's not the point. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. How can you not have a point of this? Like, come on, this is basic shit. Like, that check complete, that doesn't help us. Why don't we just say what the decision is?
Yeah.
So if it's a goal, you say goal. So the reason for check complete, right? If I'm on the committee sitting with them and they go, well, the reason we're going to say check complete.
It's a goal. It's 1-0 to Liverpool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So
add loads of words on that, say the same thing 4 or 5 times. Send them a text.
You know, if their worry is, if you say goal or no goal, that can be misheard. You go, okay, well, what we do is we only communicate the positive action. So we say goal, offside, foul, red card, yellow card. Like, we don't say any negative words. Do you know what I mean? We don't say it was no goal, because then you could hear that as goal. That's a solution. It's better than check complete, as you said, or just chat to your mate. Like, do you remember the Australian footage that came out a few years ago and that lad's now refereeing over here? Yeah. That's how they communicate with each other. They talk. Guess what? Like humans do. Yeah. They chat to each other like I would to you. So all it would take is me to go to you. Mate, are you checking that offside? Like, I've given the goal on the pitch. And you go, oh, I thought you hadn't given the goal. And I go, no, I have. Joe, the other way around.
Exactly.
No, we've given offside.
The communication breakdown.
Well, I think it's actually an offside. I don't think it is offside. Why can't they just talk like humans?
I mean, I'm not even joking about the watch thing, by the way. You've got a watch that tells them if the ball's over the line.
Mate, yeah.
So I've got a watch on right now that I can receive text messages on.
Yeah.
So is it beyond the realms to say, you know, like if this is what I mean though, this is what we need to be hearing from them now.
Yeah.
And it's not ridiculous to be questioning what is the review and what is going to happen, and we are exploring our options and all the things that Liverpool said. All of that's fine for me because it needs to change. This system is shit. Yeah. And that's showing you that it was shit and that it doesn't work. So what is your plan now? And like, I was having it with journalists last night on Twitter because they were going like, what is it people want to see? And I was like, well, yeah, here's some suggestions. Some ideas, yeah. You know, so you could do that.
Do you know what's mad though, mate?
You could join up with all the other clubs and say, we have a vote of no confidence in PGMOL. You could say, well, let's have an emergency meeting to hear about what you plan to do to make sure that doesn't happen again. Liverpool have lost 2 titles by a point. And I'm not being funny, but I've looked at that game yesterday, how it's gone, and watched Liverpool's performance, watched Tottenham. And if we'd had 10 men on the pitch, if we'd had 11 men on the pitch, I would have backed us to win it. And then, you know, and even with the 9, well, we scored a legitimate goal. So that would have been 2-2. And what if we lose the league this season by a point? What then? You'll never hear the last of it, will you? So well in, lads. I don't think it should be replayed or any of that nonsense. It's gone, it's done. What I want to know about is how you're going to make sure it doesn't happen again.
But this is the point, because all those points you just said, do you know when you've got journalists saying, I don't see what it is you want, what could possibly be done?
Well, have a think,
You're
mate.
like, lad, that's your job. You're a journalist. Why aren't you coming up with ideas?
Yeah.
Why aren't you suggesting these things?
Going on about replaying semi-finals in 2005.
Yeah, that's not the point. That's
Going on
not
about the
point.
ghost goal. Well,
Yeah.
you know, will the ghost goal, well, all right, the player can get sent off then and we'll have the pen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just I didn't get that, and I didn't get why so many of them took the same line. But in that ESPN report, it does confirm there that the VAR audio of the incident will be released, which will at least provide the transparency for what happened. So, you know, that's going to be an absolute popcorn moment, isn't it, when that comes out?
Well,
like,
I mean, this is just going to be, this is what, mate, I can't wait to hear it. And maybe we should like hire a cinema or something and all sit around and listen to it and do it as a live show. But the bit
pay-per-view when that comes out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The bit I did want to read out, which I alluded to before, and I was scrambling to find it. This paragraph was what jumped out to me. What happened next came so fast. There was no time to react within protocol. That was the word I was looking for before. Just 2 seconds after the VAR had said check complete, Spurs took the free kick, which creates a cut-off point. Nothing can be reviewed after a restart. And in brackets, this doesn't apply to penalties awarded for offences before the half-time or final whistle, as play was still active at the time of the offence. 7 seconds later, the VAR team realised their error. Panic set in, but they decided they couldn't go against protocol, so they let play continue. But in this situation, where a very serious mistake has been identified within seconds of the restart, football would rather the VAR, this is ESPN saying this, obviously, football would rather the VAR went against protocol to achieve the fairest outcome for the game. The match should have been stopped.
Yeah.
Again,
That's common sense.
Well, again, here's a point. Why is your protocol that we can't go back in that position?
Well, because this is the thing as well, isn't it? There's a bit of footage that I've seen kicking around. Because as is always the case here, if you don't put out an actual review and an actual statement and the actual audio, people fill the void. Yeah. And then you get people talking to people within the game and journalists hinting at what they've heard and ex-referees hinting at what they've heard. And you get loads of versions of events. But it just doesn't add up at all. And what I don't get about it is, I've seen this bit of footage where it looks like the referee gets told.
Yeah.
And you can see him going like that with his earpiece and the game's going on. Yeah. And all of a sudden you see his face drop. I compared it on an interview I did this morning. It looked like someone had just broken in, being told his house had been broken into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he knew at that moment that they'd made a major, major fuck up. So I'm not being funny. Why is he not allowed in that moment to apply some common sense, blow the whistle and just say, lads, it's a goal and we've made a major mistake. The VAR, there's been a miscommunication. We'll take it back. And you know what? If Postecoglou or Spurs fans or anyone, the media, all these stakeholders, all these people that might kick off about it, when they watch Diaz's goal, they've got nothing to complain about, have they? And surely, I don't know what the moment was where he got that, but it couldn't have been long after. Nothing had happened. It's not like Spurs had scored or anything.
Well, that's what I was about to say. That's what I'm sure. I'm always thinking, what's the counter argument?
Yeah.
So I'm sure what they'd say is, well, this protocol exists because otherwise, you could have a goal. Then if we don't go from the restart, they could score at the other end, but they hadn't.
Yeah.
Nothing had happened. It was 7 seconds. So pull it back. Because isn't that what we're trying, again, come back to this, what are we trying to fucking achieve? Aren't we trying to achieve the actual correct decision? And we're not talking about 10 minutes later. We're not talking that Spurs had scored 3 goals and we've got to go back and award goal. We're talking about 7 seconds. If the game doesn't allow for the referees 7 seconds later to correct an error that can still be corrected, then what's the point? Because think about this as well, and this is mad in this context. That ref is going through the rest of that game knowing that's happened. The whole refereeing team knows that's happened. So they're refereeing a game then going, shit.
Well, the mad thing is,
Then the bad thing about that, they still send off Jota for like debatable stuff.
Because we literally said, I was just about to say, we said in the ground, well, there's that thing, isn't there, where you think
they'll make it up to us. Yeah, we'll get a pen or something.
No, we'll just double down and make it even worse.
But I know this is conspiracy. Sorry to I'm talking over each other, but the conspiracy theory thing, and I'm not one for conspiracy theories, especially in football, in this type of like environment. But it's like, when that's in your head, right, psychologically, is there then a pushback the other way? A bit like, we used to get it was historically, we got loads of decisions at Anfield. And then all of a sudden one year, it went the other way. And it was like refs come to Anfield going, I won't be swayed by the crowd. It's like then he's refereeing the game going, well, I won't be swayed by my knowing that I've made a mistake. So I won't.
Almost.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So I won't give Liverpool an extra thing. I won't let Jota off. I won't. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying there's a risk of that happening then, because the ref is carrying a psychological burden through a game when he's already got a difficult enough job to do. And he shouldn't have to carry that burden because he could have just corrected the mistake.
I mean, in some grounds around the country, Anfield being one of them, really, you can't always get a signal. In Tottenham's wonderful ground, I can confirm you can. And so again, I'm in the away end, and within a minute, I would say, I've got my mates messaging me saying he's definitely onside, by the way. And within a couple of minutes, lines have been drawn on like foreign broadcasters or whatever, and we're all sharing it in the away end. Look at that, as your mate said this. Yeah, I've got that. So, and that's just really basic, isn't it? We're not sitting in Stockley Park with a load of screens with three of us poring over the information. We're in an away end looking on our phones, and we can see Diaz was not offside, and yet they're not able to reach that conclusion. The other thing that we've got to mention on this as well, and this is very much, there's been lots of tinfoil hat stuff about this, and again, I totally understand it. So VAR officials Darren England and Dan Cook had made a 6-hour flight from the United Arab Emirates the day before after taking charge of a league game between Al Ain, probably completely butchered that, and Sharjah and that in the UAE Pro League on Thursday night. Now, that doesn't look great, and not because of the obvious connection between one of our rivals and that country, but also just because that's a long way away. And if you're making a mistake like that, maybe you're a bit done in and you're not concentrating. Mark Clattenburg has said it's been speculated that England and Cook's trip to the UAE on Thursday impacted the performance. I can tell you those long international trips take it out of you. I remember doing a Europa League game in Russia on a Thursday. I returned to referee a Premier League match at the weekend, and by full time, I couldn't remember what had happened over the last 90 minutes. I was that tired. I know other officials who have felt the same. The PGMOL need to be mindful of that when sanctioning these trips. So Mark's spot on there, but I would say they also need to be mindful of the fact of the optics of sending some referees to that country, to that league, and then putting them in charge of, the obvious connection, Manchester City, etc. Why are you going there and doing that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there is a conspiracy. I really don't. And I don't think those fellas have gone over there and they're coming back with sacks of cash ready to do Liverpool over. But I do think that isn't a great way to prep for a really big game in the Premier League. And perhaps Mark's right there, and that is one of the reasons why they got this wrong. Yeah, well, look, to give our other show a plug, The Late Challenge, that we've literally recorded this week's show before we did this live show. And we talked about corruption in football and made the point of saying we're not saying that this is corrupt. And at the same time, there is a history of corruption in football. And if I was running any of this, I'd be like, well, let's avoid any possible allegations of corruption, Let's just stay away from that. Exactly.
Because that's easier to do, isn't it?
Because you're paid well enough anyway.
That's my point, mate. It's not like when they were, they were amateur refs and they weren't paid. So if someone said to them, well, you can do a midweek gig and go and get paid, and you're like, well, I need the money. You're paid well enough to do your full-time job to the best of your ability. And it's a different thing if you're doing, a game in the Europa or Champions League midweek and then coming back. That's a completely different thing to being paid to go and ref a game in the UAE in the middle of a week, 48 hours before you come back.
I was just going to say, also, just simply, if this is a thing and it's a regular thing, and plenty of people have said that, including ex-refs and all that, okay, sound, this is a thing and it's a regular thing, nothing to see here, all of that. Sound, the lads that have just been there 48 hours ago, don't put them on duty.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Yeah. Put someone else on there.
Or I tell you what, leave them till Sunday.
Yeah.
Do you know, we have managers saying this. The players are too tired on this day because of this rest period. We'll just put them on Sunday and not on Saturday. Yeah. And lads, this is the other side of it all, isn't it? Again, put myself in the position of, if I'm their bosses, they've come back from that trip and then they do this. I go to them, you're not helping us, mate. You're not helping us. Because people are going to say now, we shouldn't allow you to go on those trips. You told me you'd be sound to referee, to be the VAR. And I'm not being funny, mate. You couldn't have fucked up any bigger. You've missed an entire fucking... Do you know what I keep thinking of? Do you remember that like infamous footage on Soccer Saturday that time when Chris Kamara was always dead funny and Jeff Stelling went to him? Did you ever see this? And Jeff Stelling went to him and went, Chris, he was doing like a Portsmouth game, I think, and he went, Chris, there've been 2 red cards. Tell me about them.
Oh,
and
he hasn't seen it.
And he's like, have the Jeff. and he turns around and goes, he looks at the pitch and looks back and goes, when? Like, and he's like, and Jeff Stelling laughs and has to go to him. Such a body's just been sent off. And he goes, oh, I thought they were just getting subbed. That's what it reminds me of. Chris Kamara's just like, having a laugh, doing reporting on Saturday telly. He's not a referee getting paid 100 grand a year to do a serious job in a serious environment where there's millions of pounds on the table.
And don't get me wrong, like for a moment, let's think about them lads. The pressure must be unbelievable. I totally get that. Like if you're in a pressured environment, any pressured environment, we must have all had that feeling where your feet, it's almost like a tightness in the chest. You feel a bit hot. Do you know what I mean? You're like, shit, I've got to get this right. And that's intense.
Yeah.
But what I don't get is, if it's dead intense and you're really concentrating, how have you made such a mad error?
100%.
All ears, by the way. Well, all the lads on the pitch, all the lads off the pitch, all mic'd up, and you've all made this significant human error.
We haven't mentioned yet, have we? That's it. And that's what Liverpool were basically saying. That's not good enough. You can't just call it a significant human error and then wash it away.
What is it and why and what will change? Well, that's what I wanted to come on to.
But it's not just one significant human error, is it? We haven't mentioned there's an assistant VAR fella there. Yeah. Now, I read something this morning that said, yeah, but the assistant wouldn't have got involved because of how simple the whole process was. And like, why is he sitting there then? What's he doing? Like, is he just...
Because it's so obviously onside.
Yeah, but is he just sitting there picking his nose? Why isn't he saying to the official VAR.
He watching the match?
That's what I mean.
Why aren't they going to the centre circle? It's a goal. Yeah. Why aren't the fans celebrating? Yeah. Why isn't Diaz celebrating? Why isn't Klopp going mad?
That's my point.
Why doesn't it say 1-0 to Liverpool on the scoreboard? Yeah. Why aren't they talking about it? You know what I mean?
Like, no point. But hang on. And look, the VAR is getting most of the stick here. But at no point does the assistant go to him, mate. Hey, mate. Hey, what's
he doing?
What's he doing?
Why are Spurs taking a free kick?
Yeah. Are we taking free kicks now when someone scored a goal?
Yeah, you'd be like that down the mic. Yeah. Whoa, stop. Blow the whistle. What are you doing?
So that means there's 2 of them not paying attention. It's, mate, it's just... It's wild. And look, I do want to say something out loud so that this is on record of us saying this. I have never been the type of person who calls for people to be sacked. Pretty much ever. Like, it has to be really extreme for me to say I think that person should lose their job. I think what should generally happen to people who make big mistakes in any job is it should be used as a learning experience and everybody should get better as a result of it. And I think that's what should happen here.
But these lads mark their own homework and they never admit big mistakes. They just say sorry and then we crack on. And there's been loads of sorries.
That's it. What I've just said only works if there is a process by which people get better from the mistakes, and they're not. They're getting worse. It was the first game of the season, the first week of the season. We saw the Wolves one.
Yeah.
Now, what's this game, week 8? And we've got this one. You're like, lads, it's getting worse, not better. And that's because there's no accountability here. It's like, we'll take them off a couple of games and then we'll put them back on. That doesn't help.
The role and effect of it as well is that, like, say your VAR for, Forest, Brentford, was it yesterday? you'd be sweating bullets about getting everything right after that, wouldn't you? And you'd be like, how can I've got to get this right now.
Yeah.
The whole world's watching me, do you know what I mean? Because of what happened yesterday. Like, come out and say, what we're going to do differently now is X.
Yeah.
Because that didn't work. So it's obviously in relation, we're still talking about one incident here. In relation to this incident, we got the Liverpool statement, which, some people can't get their heads around. If you've somehow been in a cave and missed what it says, we fully accept the pressures that match officials work under, but these pressures are supposed to be alleviated, not exacerbated by the existence and implementation of VAR. It is therefore unsatisfactory that sufficient time was not afforded to allow the correct decision to be made and that there was no subsequent intervention. That such failings have already been categorised as significant human error is also unacceptable. Any and all outcomes should be established only by the review and with full transparency. This is vital for the reliability of future decision-making as it applies to all clubs, with learnings being used to make improvements to processes in order to ensure this kind of situation cannot occur again. In the meantime, we will explore the range of options available, given the clear need for escalation and resolution. And then so I honestly don't get what prompts all that. Don't get it. Almost like, how dare they, in terms of putting out that statement. And also, as we've already discussed on here today, it's a huge misrepresentation to say they're asking about a replay. Nobody at Liverpool has mentioned replay. What I take from that statement is we need to make changes for the good of the game, for the good of all teams. And I don't get why every manager and every club isn't coming out basically and going, spot on. I heard Gary O'Neill on the radio before and he was dead sound, because I think he is dead sound. I think he probably is a dead sound fella. And obviously, as you've already referenced, he was on the end of one of these this season and he went, yeah, I think it's going to ramp up now, the discussion of this. And good,
well,
basically.
Do you know what? I bet you what he'll be thinking is made up. Why? Because Liverpool are powerful. Joe, if little old Wolves say, hang on, why can't we? He'll be like, right, we'll jump on Liverpool's bandwagon. I saw a tweet by Tim Vickery, the BBC's South American correspondent, and I couldn't believe it. He said, Joe, he was criticising the club. It's like these people have read a different statement to me. Do you when you think you're living in like a parallel universe or something?
Yeah.
Because he said something like, I've seen this in Brazilian football. Clubs going out on their own to try and do something about this stuff never works. They should be taking a collective approach. I'm like, sorry, mate, where does it say anything about us going on our own? It says decision-making as it applies to all clubs. And then it says we will explore the range of options available. Why does he assume that doesn't mean getting in touch with the other clubs and saying to them, shouldn't we do something about this?
Are you unhappy with this? Yeah. But, the integrity of our competition looks, like a bit flawed at the minute.
Because of these useless...
Lads, you could go down off the basis of this. Lads, you could miss out on Europe because of it. And then, because that was my take on it. And that was what I put on Twitter. I said, isn't there a thing here that they could basically put in like a bit of a vote of no confidence? Yeah. They could say, we want referees coming in from Europe because we don't trust these ones. Or we want to hear what you're saying after every game or during every game. Why is Gary Neville or your broadcasters got some kind of, they can hear what they're saying.
Mate, I've thought that for ages. Why do they get to hear it, but we don't?
Why do they get to hear it? Yeah. I don't get that. Like I said at the start of the show, we're a stakeholder in the game. We're all putting our money into it. The whole shebang doesn't work without us. As we saw in COVID, like them lads knocking around having a game of footy with no crowds is shite. So you want the crowds, you want the people there. So, okay, give us some kind of say here. And, the sensible ones among us seem to be saying, well, this is right. And it needs reviewing. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be a proper review. And not just a review by Howard Webb. That's not a review, is it? That's Howard Webb, who's the boss of the PGMOL.
Yeah.
He doesn't conduct his own review on himself. How does that work?
Well, it comes back to what we've just been saying, isn't it? Who came up with the protocol? Who came up with the word? Who signed off the word check complete? Who came up with the idea that there's no checklist for them to go through? Him. So none of us can mark our own work properly. I'm a coach for a fucking job. I get a coach to coach me. Why? I can't coach myself. Why? I can't see my own blind spots. I can't do it. Like, it doesn't matter who you are as a human. Like, you need external input. You need other people to come in and say, look, we've looked at this. You've missed this point. This needs to be changed. This would be a better structure. How about this? Why is everyone assuming that isn't what Liverpool are saying? When it probably is.
Yeah.
Like, why? Okay, let's all have a representative on a panel that when we're talking about VAR procedure, we talk about it from a football perspective. Like, let's get some ex-professional footballers on a panel to say what the procedure should be, what should be said. Let's get some communication experts involved to say, how do we stop this happening?
Yeah.
Let's get people in from rugby to say, hang
100%,
on.
which they've already done, by the way.
Which they've done, and it hasn't worked. So it's like, okay, well, we need to look at that again, don't we? How come it works better in other sports than it does in ours?
What do they do in another country?
Exactly.
Let's look at the last World Cup. All of that. But instead, I think the PGMOL. I wish they would jib just so we didn't have to keep saying that phrase. But look at what Mike Dean was saying only the other week. Like, if that didn't ring alarm bells for everyone, I don't know what does. And like his attempt to play it down subsequently was ridiculous. Oh, you're all overplayed the fact that I used the word mate. No, but it doesn't matter whether you use mate or not mate. You saw something as a VAR and chose not to tell the fella in the middle because you thought he'd had a bit of a stressful day.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. But that was another one, wasn't it, where it got worse as the explanation went on. Like, I didn't see him say the first bit. I saw his explanation for it. And I was like, lad, I don't know where you come from this, but that's a perfect example of this isn't it. It's not like, if this was the only...
I've got it here. I said to Anthony afterwards, I just didn't want to send you to the screen after what had gone on in the game. Poor Anthony, who's paid 100 grand to referee the game. That's what he's there for. Send them to the screen. Like, it's just unbelievable that, we've got... You already said it before. Players get millions of pounds, wonderful stadiums, full stadiums, a great product, as much as I absolutely hate that phrase. And then these people acting like this, talking like this, with this old boys network. Who are they? And why aren't we allowed to challenge them?
But this is the funny thing, isn't it? Because it does, I don't care what anyone says, it does undermine the integrity of the game. Even that thing you mentioned before, I think undermines the integrity of the system. Why are broadcasters allowed to hear that footage, to hear that audio, see what's going on, and we're not as the people at home? What does that suggest? What does it imply silently? Because they do tell us some of the stuff, but what does it imply sometimes? They don't tell us. They hear and see things that they don't tell us. Why? Because there's an element of, we don't want that. We don't want that in the public domain. And you're like, okay, well, there's an integrity question there then, isn't there? Because if there was nothing to hide, it would be in the public domain.
Yeah. I mean, there's a list that I sent you it, didn't I? When we were prepping for this, a list of every VAR apology listed. I can see one there right now that affected us.
Oh, there's
Everton 0, Manchester City 1.
That's the one I was going to mention before.
Because, February the 26th, 2023, referee Paul Tierney and VAR Chris Kavanagh missed a handball from Rodri, failing to award Everton a penalty.
Yeah.
Now, they might not have scored it, and they might still have lost the game. But nevertheless, it was a penalty. You should have given it. And it might have meant the league title went somewhere else.
Yeah.
So... it's surely like all the ones that are on this list. It's Sky who put it up. Every VAR apology listed. If you want to go and look at it,
these are just the apologies, by the way.
Yeah, they're the one.
These are the ones that they've clearly gone. Oh, we best apologise for that
something
one
this time. Yeah, because the other thing that always comes out as well, isn't it? I mean, perhaps we should change section here now.
Yeah.
So let's move the chat on to how can we improve this. And what could Liverpool be asking for here? Because, there's lots of stuff that can be implied from the statement. So what could they be asking for? And what would they like changed? And how can we improve the situation? Well, one of them could be, and it's been suggested lots of times, get the officials to explain what they were doing, what the thinking was.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's like, I can imagine an argument somewhere where someone would say something about mental health or an added pressure or whatever. I don't think it would work that way round. I think before we had VAR, when they made mistakes, we would be like, fair enough, we get it. And you'd fume for a bit and you'd go to the pub and you'd fume. But, a few days go by and you'd forget about it. I think the fact that they've got all this technology, though, and there's this many officials around it, and you've got all these screens, you're all you can all speak to each other. Well, okay, now we expect you to get it more right than wrong. And so just come out and tell us. Like, just say, well, we saw this. And no one actually, even if you said things like, all the angles, we still couldn't get it. Because there will always be moments almost, I think, in football where certain things are still going to be subjective, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Like, arms in unnatural positions and all of that kind of thing. Like the Curtis Jones one, has he endangered an opponent? Well, his studs are on him, so yeah. But it's caught the top of a ball first, so he didn't mean to, though. Yeah. Et cetera, et cetera. So there's always going to be sort of like interpretation, subjective stuff. But I think if they came out and talked about that, I think we'd have well more respect for them, wouldn't we?
I think so, 100%. And I think it would get rid of loads of this stuff because, again, like think of the things we've criticised them for. So you mentioned then, maybe people would go mental health. No one's saying mental health about the managers having to speak immediately after the game or players having to speak immediately after the game.
Klopp was really good on that yesterday. I don't know if someone had like got hold of him just before he got in front of that camera. But I've always thought that exactly what he said, where he said you put emotional managers in front of and they're obliged to do that interview. By the way, it's contractual because of
get in trouble if they don't.
Yeah, if you're on the televised match, you've got to go and do that interview. And obviously, the first thing they ask is the most controversial thing, and then they get them. And he literally said, didn't he? He was like, the only thing that's going to happen is my bank balance will go the wrong way, type of thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you want to do something about this, don't just speak to an emotional manager. Yeah. And I think that's another reason why the statement's gone out as well, because the statement's just from Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah.
It's not from Jurgen Klopp.
Take it away from Klopp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's smart.
I do. And I think there should be more of that.
Yeah.
The manager shouldn't have to deal with this shit because it's constant and the manager loses money. And look, I'm sure there'll be someone out there who go to us, well, the players and the managers get paid a lot more than the referees do. And look, here's another angle then. Pay the referees more. And I know that might sound like a mad thing, right? But just what do you expect to happen? Well, often, do you know if you pay more for a job, you get better candidates applying for it. So maybe we'll have better people coming. It was funny. I like sometimes you're talking to someone who doesn't know anything about a topic to see what their angle is on it. Because sometimes you just get fresh ideas. I mentioned it to my girlfriend, just told what's been going on because I said, don't often talk about footy, but this has been going on, so it's a bit mad. Because I was watching the match for longer than I said I would be. And she was like, that's a bit mad. And I've forgotten where I was going with that now. It'll come back to me. And it's funny that I'm still wound up by doing it. It'll come back. But that's the point. Like, what can you do about it? Why aren't we sitting down and saying, what can you do about it? And we've already come up with a number of examples of things you can do. Yeah. But,
I mean, the referees from elsewhere thing, which, I've banged on a couple of times already in this show about, but, I don't get why that isn't a thing anyway. I don't get why there's like a weird closed shop around it, because I think in this country there is a problem with respect of officials and they keep banging on about it, but we're not going to respect you with the way your old boys club is operating. That's not helping. Do you know what I mean? And the idea like McAllister could get done for saying Tottenham had 12 men or whatever's been suggested in the press today, that's not good. That's not going to, read the room, boys. That's not going to help in this situation. And I think, I read some stuff about that. They do try and recruit now from like academy, we mentioned on our Late Challenge show today, academies and the amount of people that get rejected from academies, and what do they then go on and do? Well, couldn't they be trained up to be refs?
Well, this is one of the points I was going to make about
VARs.
Paying people more often attracts a higher caliber of people to the job. Also, it's like, and that was what my girlfriend said to me. She went, don't ex-players become referees? And I went to her, no. And I went, generally not. And she went, why? And I went, good question. Because surely that's what we should be.
Probably more money being a pundit.
There's loads, but there's only very few people who become pundits, aren't there? Think of how many professionals there are every year who retire. Think of how many, we mentioned this on the other show. Think of how many people go through academies and don't become professional footballers. Surely they are people who've played the game. People like Neville on telly are always saying about, these refs have never played the game. So that, ex-pros are always saying that's not a red. So an ex-pro ref in the game wouldn't have given that as a red. But you've got refs who are giving it. Well, why aren't we encouraging more ex-pros to come and referee games then, to become professional referees? If it's a money issue, well, surely then, and I know people might say to me, that's a mad idea, but paying people more money tends to increase the caliber of people you get in private industry. Yeah. So if that's an issue, okay, do that. If the refs say, well, we don't get paid enough to talk after a game, okay, well, we'll pay you more. Now you've got to talk after the game. There's enough money in the game to do that.
And in private industry where they are paid well, they're normally subject to some kind of check and balance.
Exactly.
And they're almost, they're normally subject to, if they prove to be incompetent, well, they won't still be doing the job.
Exactly.
But in this particular, old boys
closed
network
shop,
run by a copper, etc., it does seem closed shop. It does just seem, he's had loads of praise, Webb, hasn't he, about sort of coming out here and there and doing shows or whatever. But it's on his terms, isn't it? It's his audio. It's the decisions that he wants to talk about. No, we want all the audio. We want you to talk about all the decisions. We want you to change the rule about you can't go back one. Put a time limit on it. Say 30 seconds or something, because that's quite a long time. 30 seconds would have resolved that situation. They would have been able to go, oh no, we've because surely by that point, the VAR stopped texting his missus or swiping on Tinder or whatever he was doing instead of watching the footy, and he would have gone, hang on, I gave a goal there, and so and you could have reversed it.
10 seconds would do that. That's mad, isn't it?
Exactly.
10 seconds would do that.
And I don't get why they set themselves up to fail with so many of their own rules. Even the clear and obvious thing. Forget the clear and obvious thing. Just get it right. And you know what I mean? And you should be able to have enough... there should be enough brain power between, 7 officials all told, to get the decisions right more often than not in these big games, televised games. You've got your Stockley Park, you're all mic'd up. I just don't get it. And so, it's a phantom offside. You don't want that to happen again. So again, come out and tell us what you're going to do differently next time.
Well, just one last point on that and on the accountability thing. In my experience, when human beings know they're going to be held accountable, they perform better. So for example, like that Mike Dean example, right? Let's say the audio, he knew the audio is going to be published after every game.
Around then, is he?
And let's say they've got to give an account of themselves publicly after every game. Is he then going to go, I just won't say that to me mate because he's had a tough day? Or is he going to go, no, we've got to do it.
Yeah.
I've got to do it. Why? I'm going to hold accountable to it.
It's going to make you honest.
If you're watching the game as a VAR and you're watching it at 5:30 on a Saturday night and it's a huge game and it's an important game, but in fact, I should scrap that because all the games are equal importance. And you get offered to go to the UAE 48 hours before and get paid for it, are you less likely to take that gig? Because you think, hang on. And it's like, I've done this in my job in the past, gone out for a bevy the night before and the next day you're not on it. And do you know what I did after that? Because I'm accountable, because I don't get paid if I don't do my job properly. Do you know what I did the next time? I didn't go out for a bevy the next time.
And also acknowledge how into football and their clubs football fans are. So if you, like I already said before, but we'll say it again as a thing that should change. Don't go to the UAE because there's because you've allowed basically a state-owned club to be winning leagues in this country. So therefore, UAE's not on and Saudi's not on because they own a football club in this league now as well. Yeah. So you know what I mean? So that's now that's
off limits.
That's off limits, lads. We're not doing that.
And by the way, full stop.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned on our other show, like conflicts of interest in the 100%. Legal industry. It should just be there is a potential conflict of interest here. You cannot go there. Because
we already have that, don't we? It always comes out who the officials supposedly support. Mm-hmm. And like an unbelievable amount of officials seem to have supported Altrincham over the years who come from Greater Manchester. Which is mad, isn't it?
That's interesting, yeah. Loads of Altrincham fans. You always bump into them, aren't you?
Yeah. But if a lad comes in from Spain and referees the game, well, we haven't got that then, have we?
Yeah.
So, and the world's a smaller place now. Globalisation and travel and all the rest of it. It wouldn't be a problem, would it? These lads are going off everywhere, refereeing Champions League games or going out to the UAE. So why don't we benefit from the reverse?
Well, mate, it's the same point, isn't it? We've got the best managers and the best players and the best coaches from all over the world. We have done for decades now. Well, why haven't we got the best referees from all over the world?
Well, and also, madly, before all this even happened, we read about the Saudi League gonna pay. Someone ringing me again, God, leave me alone, I'm doing a show. But we read about the Saudi League wanting to recruit our best officials for their league because they want the best officials.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, hang on, shouldn't we be doing that?
Yeah.
And equally, you know, back to the Liverpool statement, can't Liverpool and the other Premier League clubs be getting them together? And this could be one of the things they're leaning on them, saying, listen, some of these officials aren't up to par. They're not good enough. They've proved they're not good enough. Go and recruit from elsewhere. That's what we want as football clubs now. And, you know, what's the bar? 14 clubs say that in the Premier League. Then something's got to happen, surely. I don't know why PJ, MOL and Howard Webb, etc. have this hold over the game where seemingly things can't change. No. It should be up to the clubs as well, surely. Yeah. And I'm sure if Liverpool could lobby the other clubs, I don't know whether that's possible or not, but perhaps that's how we get a change. What we should also talk about, I'm just looking at the time, we'll probably do another 10 minutes or so. Thanks to everyone in the comments, by the way. I have looked a few times and it seems quite wild in the room today. So I'm not sure I'm reading out you all arguing with each other, because I don't think that's great content for the people who are going to listen to this as a podcast or watch it when it's not live. I think we should mention, it took us this long to mention it because it was such a staggering display of incompetence from the officials. We should mention Liverpool. We should mention the away end. Yeah. We should mention the good bit about Saturday evening. And the good bit was Liverpool's spirit, Liverpool's fight on and off the pitch. And we've talked about that on this show before. And there is something special there brewing again. I can remember you on one of our earlier shows saying, and I could totally take your point. You were saying we've had this group of players and it started to get broken up, and this is Liverpool 2.0 under Klopp or whatever you want to say. We had that group of players that basically won us everything, and so of course you were wedded to them. Of course you felt an emotional attachment to them. And I remember you saying, because they've moved on and so many of them have gone and this is a different team, you were like, I don't know if I can feel the same way about them. That connection's already there, I feel. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, and it's, obviously Big Dom, Szoboszlai, everyone loves him. It's like it's
best
like
number 8 we've ever had.
He's unbelievable, isn't he? And it's like, you know, we were coming back on the coach and every single song that came on the radio or whoever was playing the song on Bluetooth, whatever it was, but we were turning it into a song about Szoboszlai, which when you consider how difficult that is to even say, a few bevies down as we were able to sing every song into a Szoboszlai song. But, you know, he's brilliant. But it's not just about him. There's something about this group again. You know, there's something about, like, I loved it when we were in a weird way. And so did everyone else. I could feel it. You know, when we're down to 9 and we play 5-3-0, which I've never seen in my life. But it was brilliant. It was like, oh my God, these lads are super. And like, there was a moment where Trent won the ball quite high up the pitch and he was sort of near the away end. And he come over and gave it a big clenched fist. And you were like, get in, come on. And like, it was so loud, that end. And it was so cruel, wasn't it, as well? You know, how, you know, with Mata putting it to his own neck because he'd been fantastic. They'd all been fantastic. They deserved at least a point. And you see Núñez like a man possessed, you know, afterwards coming over, pushing people out the way because he wanted to go and salute the crowd. There is something there. There's a huge spirit there. And I think we're going to absolutely batter someone soon because there's all this pent up frustration because of all this. And 2, that spirit and that fight will take you a long way.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned about me saying that because I did feel that at the time, and it is funny how quickly it changes and how quickly football can do that to you. And I was going to say before, you know, as I'm watching that game, thinking about doing this show and thinking of what a result this has been to get that 1-1. And then honestly, when that goal went in, mate, I sat with my head in my hand for 10 minutes on the couch.
It was awful, wasn't it?
Like, and I heard even Micah Richards, I think Micah Richards said it on Match of the Day.
Felt sorry for him, yeah.
Felt sorry for him. I felt like everyone felt that. It was like, because we deserved a point. And do you know what? I don't know whether this was, I misread this, but it felt like in the ground, do you know, when the 6 minutes of stoppage time came up, it felt like it was the away end that went wild, as if we could win this. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was still that feeling like,
there was a bit of that.
We're fucking mad, you know.
There
like,
was people going like, well, we'll get a chance. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly, mate, I had it in my head.
Because there was people behind me who were going on about that we were going to bring Nunes on. I was like, we've got no subs left.
It's too late now, yeah.
We've got no subs left.
Even when I knew that couldn't happen, I was looking at it thinking, there's a big Dom Szoboszlai screaming in here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you could see it. He sort of had that in his... He looked a couple of times. He looked like I want to burst forward and just go and have a dig. And I thought, honestly, that's a proper story here.
I know.
But I think the flip side of all of this is, well, it's not the flip side. It's the continuation. I honestly think that what happened on Saturday could be the fuel that pushes us towards a real league push here, because what you've just said about this side, what they've created so quickly as a bond is unreal when you look at how many like new lads we've got in. As you said, Nunes coming on the pitch at the end, all of that. There's a few of them that said after the game, like almost like the old Man United thing that Ferguson used to do. It's us against the world. You're all against us.
We're the best underdogs in the league,
We're going to come at you.
Yeah, we're the best team in adversity in the league.
I tell you who, again, and I've mentioned this a few times in the past, referenced this sort of thing. Someone who will have hated seeing all that unfold is Pep Guardiola, because he'll be sitting there thinking, fucking hell, the last thing I need is them.
Not this again.
I don't want them poked. Stop poking this monster.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen. Like, I genuinely think, and look, we took a few knocks injury-wise at the weekend.
Yeah, Gakpo's out for 6 weeks.
Yeah, and that can be a blow, especially if we've lost Jota and stuff like that. If we can keep, and we've referenced this before, but I'll say it again, if we can keep Matip and Gomez and Konate fit and rotate them through the season.
But make Kwanzaa's brilliant.
Well.
Did you not see him against Leicester?
Yeah, I know. But let's not get into that now. We genuinely can challenge for this title. City losing that game at the weekend, they've got to play Arsenal without Rodri. You know, that could be another drop point.
I thought you were genuinely going to say then, I'd love it. I'd love it. He's got to go to Arsenal. But the other thing is that, you know, like when we were travelling down there and I was trying to sort of set the mood of how we were all absolutely buzzing. We couldn't wait to go and watch this side. Yeah. There was no trepidation at all about stepping into a ground of a side that's flying with a manager that everyone loves and all that kind of stuff. It was like, no, we can go there and we need to burst their bubble. And we've gone there and lost there in such a cruel manner. But we were coming back on the bus buzzing because we were buzzing that we're following a great side. And I think there would have been fury in that dressing room about the way it's gone with the decisions. Yeah. But I think equally there would surely have been pride about how they played. And all of a sudden now, like all the little bits that me and you have been moaning about, you especially, lad. But I mean, me as well. Early sightings of Endo, I was like, I'm not sure about this fella. Thought he was great against Leicester. Thought he was great when he came on here as well. And so, there is a player there. And the other thing as well, to flip something that we were feeling on the way down on its head. On the way down, we were looking at how everything else had gone. You know what I mean? Like City have got beat. All that kind, the Wolves results, all of that kind of stuff. And you're thinking, Liverpool can go top of the league here. And they'll know that and we know that. Bring it on. And it doesn't turn out like that. But because of the way everything else went, we're only 2 points off them.
Yeah.
And so, it could have been a whole lot worse. But as it is, it feels like you've stung Liverpool now. Liverpool are ready to go. Liverpool, want to take on the world because they feel so hard done to. And we're only 2 points off the pace. Should we leave it there?
I think
We've talked a lot. Thanks very much to everyone in the comments. Like I say, I didn't get round to any of it. I don't think I mentioned one comment in the whole time.
I can imagine it was a wild comment room.
I mean, I'm still looking at it and
we've basically been ranting for an hour and 20 minutes, so I'm sure that's what's going on.
We needed to get it out. We needed to say all that. So that was why we did an extended show today. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, share it. We are here every Monday on This Is Anfield talking about what's happened at at the weekend with the Reds. We're also there on a Wednesday as well with extra shows there, so look out for that. And you'll also see plenty of clips all over social media. Do also check out the Late Challenge podcast. And if you really like us, as it says on the board, if you're watching on video, check us out on Patreon as well. Because if you'd like to get involved with that, that's how we actually get some money back. And that'd be nice. But yeah, the Reds down, but not deflated. They'll be back. Watch out. That has been Live at 5.